Awesome. So we're doing a series called The Hustle. Fantastic. And in it, we are learning or talking about, finances. We're talking about things that, would affect our finances, good and bad. And we are learning how we can align to God's word in relation to our finances so that we can find financial freedom and we can prosper in our finances. Now, as we began, we dealt with an issue that most of us experience, an issue on anxiety. We said that money, when it comes to money issues, it brings a lot of anxiety. Whenever we are telling everybody about our stresses, most of the time it's about money. In our relationships, in school, at work, whatever it is, at home, money just affects across the board. And we say that money tends to cause anxiety in our lives. So we learn from the Word of God that what does He say about this? What does He say about this anxiety that you are forming? And we learn from as the speech, the initial speech or foundational speech, the Sermon on the Mount, what Jesus said about provision, what Jesus said about what He feels about this issue. And He told us that, I take care of the birds of the air, and they never lack. Yet they do not sow, yet they do not reap, nor do they store. But they never lack a meal. He said that the lilies of the sea, of the field, are clothed with, beautiful, they adorn a beautiful clothing. And he even compares it to one of the wealthiest men that ever lived, King Solomon, and said, not even Solomon looked as beautiful as the lilies of the field. Yet they did not have to struggle for the clothes that they wear. So he's telling us not to worry. He's telling us not to fret, because you are more valuable than the lilies of the field. You are more valuable than the birds of the air. And his desire is for him to be able to provide for you. But he says, this is how he'll provide for you. In verse 33 of Matthew chapter 6, he says, but seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be given to you as well. In verse 34, he says, therefore do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. Here he's saying the secret to financial prosperity, the secret to financial freedom is by trusting God, is by lining up with his word, by lining up with the things that he says that you should walk in. In that shall you find the freedom that you seek. In that shall you find the prosperity. In that shall you find the provision that he has laid out for you. Paul goes on to tell us, do not be anxious about anything. In Philippians 4 verse 6, he says, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. What we learned in this is that he is drawing us back to the source, to love the source. And in loving the source and following the source or the giver, then shall you receive the things that you desire. And my prayer after that sermon was that we as a community would choose to commit ourselves to God. Not commit ourselves to things, not commit ourselves to material stuff, but we should choose to commit ourselves to God. And I pray that even as we prayed the prayer that day, that we are actually following that and walking in that path. Then last week we talked about the second enemy, which was discontentment. And discontentment, we learned that it's a condition of the heart and mind, and that ensures that we are never happy, we're never satisfied with what we have. I mean, it's that place where you always know there's something better that I could have. And we keep pursuing that thing that is better. And in doing so, we are led away from the very thing that, God desired for us. And that's following him, worshiping him, honoring him. In fact, we learned from the Israelites in Numbers chapter 11. They had just come from captivity in Egypt. And they had seen a miracle where God had allowed them to be taken out of slavery And they were going into their place of the promised land. And as they were going into their place of promised land, it took a long time. So they got to a place where they began grumbling and complaining and wailing about, the provisions that God had made, forgetting that it was actually miraculous, that all they had to do was wake up. And as soon as they woke up, as the dew settled, they had food. And they would collect this food and eat this food. I mean, that was a great miracle in itself. But no, they did not see that. They saw, they remembered, there was something better that we had. We enjoyed melons, we enjoyed leeks, we enjoyed onions, we enjoyed, fish and meat in Egypt. And they said, we desire that. And God was angry with them. But we learned in 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 6, the writer here urges us that, but godliness with contentment is great gain. Again, we see in this verse, godliness with contentment is great gain. The writer is pointing us back to God. He's pointing us to focusing on God, and not only focusing on Him, but doing the things that He has called us to do. And along with contentment, we will find great gain. And we had a couple of takeouts. The first one was to stop acquiring things. Stop going out there and getting things. It's time to relax on that. And we said, evaluate where you are. The things that we have around you, are they helpful to you? Are they causing anxiety? Are they leading you down the wrong path? And then the third thing was to act. And for some of us, that means pruning ourselves, removing some of these things away from our life, and stopping some of the habits that we're doing that is causing the discontentment, that is causing the anxiety. And today, we're going to talk about the last, not the last, but the third enemy of the financial freedom. But before we do that, I want to ask you guys a question. Now, this question will seem like it's way off, but trust me, somehow it works. What kind of music do you like dancing to, and why so? Discuss with your neighbor. 10 marks. And please, I understand that we are all a work in progress. Please don't say Hillsong, nini nini. Awesome, so let's get a few samples. Aya. Team R&B. Where are Chenny? I know you guys. Team R&B. Oh, there's only one, or two, three. Aya, ngoja. We are getting there. Team Dancehall. Team Reggae. Team Hip Hop. Team Mogivi. Team Mogivi. Team Rina Wanje. Yeah, I knew you'd have to put your hand up. Team Lingala. The rumba people. Love it. Aya, Team Salsa. Watch any so. You guys, salsa is some good nani for dancing. Let me brace myself for this one. Team Niger Beat. Father in heaven, I pray for these people. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. Fantastic. So now, the reason I ask this is because I just want to share where I'm at in this season in life. Okay? Now, please do not judge. This is how life just happens, and this is where I'm at right now. I'm a real person with real issues, serving a fantastic. My favorite music to dance to nowadays in this season is rock music. Yeah! You see, let me tell you something about rock music. Rock music, there's no pressure. You just move. There's no pressure to two fingers in the sky. There's no pressure. Rock music is just, you can even just bob your head and just go. Let me tell you the reason. One thing I'm realizing as I grow older is that I'm realizing that I'm getting more and more two left feet. And balance is not the same as when I was young and, sporty and moving in sports, Back in the day, I used to play I was the three-sport guy. I'm in rugby, I'm in soccer, I'm in basketball. And field hockey, and bunch of stuff. So I had balance then. But nowadays, I exercise more on the couch, changing the channels. So things have changed. Things have changed. So when I get onto the dance floor, it's not the same. I tried doing some moves like from back in the day, and it's not working out. So I've stuck to, enjoying rock music and just bobbing my head. But the third enemy that I want to talk about today is called imbalance. Now, imbalance or a lack of balance is defined as the state of being out of equilibrium or out of proportion. If limited to dancing, it's okay. We can survive. But unfortunately, this affects our life. In life, we are imbalanced in so many areas, and we are also imbalanced in our financial areas. And that's today's, That's today's enemy, and that's what we're going to talk about, because I've realized that imbalance is sabotaging our financial status. Now, there are symptoms of imbalance, and a couple of them I can share with you is one, hoarding of money. Do you ever find yourself hoarding money? Yes? This is no. Do you ever find yourself hoarding money? Now, for some of us, we are hoarding money because we just want to see a fat bank account and feel like we have something. For some of us, if you're like me, I'm scared. I'm so scared of investing. I'm so scared of just losing the money. So I'd rather keep it over there. I don't know what to do with it, but it's over there. Now, that's a symptom of imbalance. The other one is excessive spending. There's some of us, like when I was younger, my account was actually a clearing and forwarding zone. Because as soon as it came, it's gone out. And you find that most of the people who are in this area tend to struggle with debt. The third one is chasing after money. This is actually an imbalance. If you talk to people nowadays, you see them. People are running helter-skelter in the city, because they are running to chase money. They are always following money. I have this gig over here. I'm selling this. On the hustle, I'm doing this. You're still at work. In the evening, you have to go to here. Or there's that kashamba on the farm. I mean, we're doing so many things, and we are chasing money. To achieve true financial freedom, we must ensure that we find balance. And several things are necessary for us to be able to achieve this. Now, allow me to illustrate something for you. When I was younger, my dad, and he was an amazing guy, still is an amazing guy. He did some amazing things for us. And he gave us my siblings and I, very good memories that will last us for a lifetime. Now, one of the things he got to do for us was he took us to the circus. Now, in there was a circus that came to town. And they were over here at Luna Park. You remember that one? Those people of Yeah, they brought a circus. Yani, the most amazing. It was a huge tent. First of all, I remember just looking at it. What? This tent's this big. What? It was so amazing. Then you go in, they have set the place up. Then the show starts, and the show starts. There are animals, they are going. There are people on animals. Some are jumping off. There's some on elephants, others on horses. And, it was just, those were wow moments. Like, I've arrived. If I die today, I've seen everything that I needed to see. And then there was the acrobats. This was my favorite part. There was the acrobats, guys jumping over things, doing the fire things. And then there was the high wire act, the guys were swinging. Like and then he holds another guy, and then hey! And it was so amazing. Then there's the guy who is walking on the line, the high wire act with balancing and stuff. And I have to say, this inspired me so much that I wanted to be an acrobat when I grew up. I wanted to be like a circus ringmaster. But upon trying some of the things at home, let's just say that vision died there. But there are some things that I can do. And today I'm going to show you one of them as an illustration for what we're going to learn about today. Now, as you can see, this is a mop. And I'm going to try and balance it on my hand. But anyway, let's continue with the sermon. But here I am as I balance this mop on my hand. There are three things that are in play. The first thing is that for me to be able to achieve this, I have a support system. I have put it on the palm of my hand. All right? Now, if I moved it to my finger, it becomes slightly difficult for me to achieve this. So, support structures in your financial freedom, support structures in your financial prosperity are very important. Thing number two is, as you notice, I am looking at the top, which is a point of reference. As I look at the top of this broom or mop, I am focusing to ensure that I am still in line and going where I need to be or doing what I'm supposed to do. So that's the second thing, a factor that's involved in doing this. The third factor is that every time you notice that the broom is moving from side to side, I am doing something called course correction. I have to correct it in order for it to remain focused, remain supported, and remain in line with where I need to go. And today, these are the three things that we are going to talk about when it comes to our financial freedom. You guys are too good. So these are the three things we're going to talk about when it comes to financial freedom. First one is support system. Now, one of the things I believe is creating a foundation that allows us to be able to build upon, a foundation that will allow us to build an elaborate building. And the first foundation, the foundation that I'm thinking about is something we call wisdom. The dictionary defines knowledge as facts, information, and skills acquired by a person through experience or education. But it says wisdom is the soundness of an action or decision with regard to the application of experience, knowledge, and good judgment. Knowledge has to do with facts and comprehension and, acquiring whatever experience. But wisdom has to do with action and application. A simpler way to put it is that wisdom is the right use of knowledge. In fact, one of the greatest kings, King Solomon, it's a story that is told from, when we were young, and for those of us who went to Sunday school, they tell us that he was given an option to choose whatever he wanted, and he chose wisdom. God was so impressed with him that he lavished many other things on him, including wealth. King Solomon in Proverbs 3:13-20 said, "Blessed are those who find wisdom, those who gain understanding, for she is more profitable than silver and yields better returns than gold. She is more precious than rubies. Nothing you desire can compare with her. Long life is in her right hand, and in her left hand are riches and honor. Her ways are pleasant, and all her paths are peace." Aren't all these things that we desire? paths of peace, paths of prosperity, benefit. These are things that you and I actually long for. This is actually the root cause of the very thing that you look for when you are looking for money. But King Solomon says it is found in wisdom. And he says that the man, the woman who finds wisdom is blessed and has benefit and prosperity. His return exceeds the material wealth and includes peace, pleasant ways, honor, and long life. In verse 18, he begins to say that she is a tree of life to those who take hold of her. Those who hold her fast will be blessed. By wisdom, the Lord laid the earth's foundation. By understanding, he set the heavens in place. By his knowledge, the watery depths were divided, and the clouds let drop the dew. Wisdom is the tool God used to create all of this. It's the tool that he used to create you, the tool that he used to separate the heavens and the earth. That was the foundation of creation. So then I ask you, how do you gain this wisdom? We can call it, you can say it all you want, and you always wonder, in fact, a lot of people walk up to me and they say, Pasi, I've come to seek your wisdom. I walk to people, financial gurus in different fields, and I always ask them, I'm come here to seek your wisdom regarding something. So what is this wisdom and how do we gain it? In Proverbs 9:10, Solomon again tells us, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and knowledge of the Holy One is understanding. You see, we see a few things here, that fear, reverence, submission, and worship of God. He points us back again to God, serving him, following his ways. Only in being in him, fearing him, respecting him, honoring him, shall we find that wisdom that we need to set the foundation for our financial freedom. In James chapter 1, verse 5, he says, if any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. Here God is telling you, just ask for it. I have it, and I want to give it to you lavishly. You just need to ask for it. And without any marginalization, he will give it to you. Proverbs 13:20, he says, walk with the wise and become wise. For a companion of fools suffers harm. Solomon here is telling you that watch the kind of relationships you have. Evaluate them. The people you're hanging with, are they adding value to you? Especially in this area of financial wisdom. Are you just hanging out with people who are teaching you how to spend? Or do you have people who have proven to you that they're investing wisely, that they're saving wisely, and you can see it from the way they're living their lives? Who is hanging around you? He says, walk with the wise, become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. There is so much benefit in hanging out with friends who are wise. Number 2, point of reference. When I was talking about point of reference here, I was talking about goals. What are your goals? What are your financial goals? Do you have financial goals? Do you have a vision? Are you heading somewhere? Or is your idea, make as much money as possible? Then what? Then what? This might be the reason we're getting into anxiety, discontentment, and finally imbalance. Proverbs 29:18 says, where there is no vision, the people are unrestrained. But happy is he who keeps the law. Where there is no vision, one is unrestrained. You move haphazardly. That's why some of us are helter-skelter all over the place, wondering what is the next thing that we're going to do? Because we do not have a vision. We do not have a goal. So we end up in the excessive spending. We end up in the excessive hoarding. The vision, the goal gives a focus point that we work towards and that guides all our financial decisions. Just like when I was balancing the mop in my hand, I had to look up at the focal point, the point of reference. This allowed me to see and maintain that this is where I need to go, this is what I need to do in order to achieve what it is that I need to achieve. This vision will, of course, be underpinned by wisdom and by the fear of the Lord, and hence will have as the key component honoring God. So I ask you today, do you have financial goals that you are working towards? But we need more than goals. We need to have in us a place, to be able to figure out how are we going to achieve these goals. I recognize that in this season, we are all struggling. Well, maybe not all of us, let me not speak for everybody. But in this season, even as a nation, there's a lot of people who are struggling financially. Life has happened. This politics thing, it has gone longer than we expected it. And of course, because guys were anticipating, people have been holding money. So a lot of businesses, are struggling. A lot of, there's no cash flow in society. So we are struggling, to be able to maintain the goals for those of us who had goals, to maintain the vision that we had. But in Proverbs 18:16, Solomon says again, a man's gift makes room for him and brings him before great men. This is very true. And allow me to share an example of our own, or somebody we know. Riga, who is our music minister, is somebody who he's been worshiping here and leading worship here for a long time. Now, last year he released a single, and we loved it. It was called Above It All. And, we would all jump to it and stuff. And what people don't realize is what went into that. There were days of us in the office praying for him just to get that consent to be able to go to the studio, because he has to pay for studio time. He had to pay for so many things so that he could be able to get that. Then it came to the point he needed to release the video. And he needed to pray and trust God. Father, I need that, however, how much money, to be able to go into studio and release this video, because he desires to exalt God. So it was a tough thing. And by the time that video came out, we were celebrating. But let me tell you something about the new album that he has done, the EP that he has done. What he realized is that I have this talent, I have this gifting. I actually know how to do some of these things. And I have a laptop. So in his laptop, with the application that he had, he began to create music. He put words to the music. And that's the EP that we had. And he did it in his bedroom. He didn't need a studio with CG sound, whatever, Nini, all that, and somebody mixing whatever. And that album is so amazing. In fact, I play that thing loud so that everybody knows. Kwanza loving 254 always, and I'm in traffic. That is the song that I play. Kwanza, it's on repeat. Yeah, I'm loving 254 always, doesn't matter what is going on in the country. But here's the thing. The moment he sold that album out there, and you guys did an amazing job of supporting him, he was able to pay for his video, which is coming out soon. So using the gifts, using the talents that God has given him, it is bringing him before great men. And I believe that he will go places. He'll be a world-renowned musician. You should have said amen on his behalf. But for financial balance, our goals or our vision should be something other than revenue goals, spending goals. There's also giving goals. Jesus says in Luke 6:38, give and it will be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over will be put into your bosom. For with the same measure that you use, it will be measured back to you. Giving has a return. There's something about giving. And by the way, I'm not talking about, because, often we mistake that the pastor is saying, give to the church. No, that's not it. What he's saying is here, give where there's a need. You have a neighbor who needs, give to them. In fact, some social scientists by the name of Dan Akin and Akin and Norton established through research that giving makes one happier than spending on yourself. Isn't that true? I remember I shared a couple of weeks ago how I was homeless for a long time, for a while, for a good almost 11 months, 10, 11 months. And after that, I came out of that. I got a really, really good job. I was traveling all over the country, making money and, making connections and building networks. And it happens that almost every Friday when I was getting paid, because they paid every Friday, the checks came out every Friday, but every Friday when I was getting paid, there was always somebody around me who would share something about a need. And I remember, because I remember the situation that I came from, I would give sometimes an entire paycheck to somebody. Let me tell you, I have never experienced more joy doing that. Number two, in fact, to stress that, in Acts 20:35, it says that it is more blessed to give than it is to receive. Saving goals and investment goals. God's word exhorts us to save and to invest. In Proverbs 21:20, it says, the wise store up choice food and olive oil, but the fools gulp theirs down. In Proverbs 6:6-11 says, go to the ant, you sluggard. Consider its ways and be wise. It has no commander, no overseer or ruler, yet it stores its provisions in summer and gathers its food at harvest. Now, interesting statistic, an ant has only 250,000 cells in its brain. You have 10 billion cells in your brain. You are that much smarter, that much wiser than an ant. Solomon is telling you here, wise up. This is your path to financial freedom. So do you have revenue, expense, or giving, or saving, or investment goals? Have you set out the amounts or percentages of income which is allocated to these areas? Without clear goals, plans, and the discipline to execute, we will find ourselves financially imbalanced. The third thing was course correction. As I did the thingy, every time it would lean towards one side, and I would have to move my hand so that I could get under it so that it would still be aligned. So what I'm trying to say is that you need to keep your eyes on the prize to understand where you're going, and with wisdom that you have, correct the course whenever you shift from your course. Because the truth is, because of life the way it is, at some point you will shift from your course. Life happens. Elections happen. It has happened for us. And now we're in that place, we are just so desperate for this thing to get over. Like, chagueni tu, just do it, let's finish. I mean, a lot of us have gotten to that point. If you lived in the States, there's been hurricanes, and we have all been following these hurricanes. It has destroyed land, it has destroyed property, it has destroyed so many things. Fires happen. If you're in places like the Middle East, like Syria, wars will shift your financial goals. So you need to be in that place where you need to figure out a way to work on this imbalance so that you can remain on your vision and you can remain on the course that you need to financial freedom. Now, how do you correct your course when life happens? The first thing is you need to stop. Does that sound familiar? You need to stop. Stop moving. And once you do that, evaluate where you're at. Then using wisdom based on the knowledge, based on experience, based on someone else's knowledge, based on someone else's experience. Figure out a way to act and correct this. One thing I would like for you to know today is that to build financial balance, get wisdom, set goals, and correct your course. What's interesting in this sermon series is that for everything that we have been called to do, everything that we have been requested to do, it points us back to God. It points us back to God. It's saying that in God, can you achieve that thing that you desire? And it's not necessarily about the material wealth, but it's about the peace that comes with being in Him. It's about the prosperity that comes with being in Him. These are the things that we truly, truly seek. It's not the money. Often we have believed that money provides these things. In fact, there's a common phrase that we use, pesa, pesa, it will answer so many of your problems. Today I want to come and change that narrative and tell you, it is not the money that is going to change your situation, your circumstances, or give you the solution. It is being in God. It is following His ways. And in doing so, shall He not only provide, but He shall lavish everything that you need. And you will find the joy, you will find the happiness that you so desire. It was a short sermon, but it was a precise sermon.